Welcome to my channel. It's episode 2 of the Zuul Runner build series, and today we are going to start prepping the donor chassis and figure out how we're going to build this thing. So let's go. As I said, this is episode 2 of the build series. If you haven't seen the previous episode, the link to the playlist will be down below if you want to check that out. Today we're going to get some work done on this project and start prepping the Team Associated B74 chassis that I'm going to use as the basis of this build. What I'm going to do first is remove what isn't needed and install the missing components. Then I can figure out how I'm going to rearrange a few things on the chassis to allow the rear suspension to be installed. So anyway, that's the plan. Let's go ahead and get to work. I start out prepping the chassis by removing the rear components that I won't be needing. So that means the center chassis brace, the gearbox, the shock tower, and suspension blocks. All of those parts have to go. Of course, these parts don't just get thrown in the trash. They all go in my parts bins that I have in my cabinet for later projects. After removing the rear gearbox and chassis brace, I noticed that there was a lot of dirt and grime underneath there, so I just gave it a quick wipe down before moving on. Next, the center diff and motor mount need to be flipped around. This will allow us to be able to mount the chassis rails and give plenty of space for that rear solid axle. Luckily, the 4 holes that are used to mount the center diff are symmetrical, so flipping it around shouldn't be a problem. Just a quick test fit to make sure everything is all going to work out before bolting it down. Just as expected, it looks like it's going to be a little tight, but everything fits. Time to thread in the screws and tighten it up. Now it's time to build and install the missing front differential. Nothing special here. I'm just going to build the diff according to the B74 manual using the suggested diff fluid weight. Then it's on to installing the bearings, diff, and input pinion. Of course, I use all the proper shims to make sure that the gear mesh is nice and snug, and then that way nothing will move around and we won't be stripping gears. Once the diff and input pinion are installed, it's time for the center drive shaft. Installing the drive shaft is pretty straightforward and should go in with no problems. Then it's just a matter of reinstalling all of the screws and securing everything in place. Well, it was at this point I saw my first problem with this build. So, I've been sitting here thinking about how this build is going to work. I needed to rotate the motor and the center diff. That was easy. But because the motor's on the other side of the chassis and forward, the problem is because the motor is in the front and the steering is so close, the steering belt crank is hitting the motor. That's the problem. If I can't figure out how to solve this problem, then this build's gonna be dead. That's gonna be the end of it. So we need to figure out what to do. I'm gonna have to think about this for a little bit. So I think I'm gonna end this video here. I'll see what I can come up with, and I'll update you in the next video. Stay tuned. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. See you next time.